wonder if we can talk a little bit about volatility because, I'm watching the gold price. I'm trying to keep an eye and just kind of frantically flipping back and forth, trying to figure out what's going on. So are we going to continue to see some of that? And this is obviously not just affecting gold. This is going on in lots of places in the market. So thoughts on volatility?
Yeah, so volatility remains very high. I talk about it pretty much every day with followers saying, listen, if you're involved in this market right now and you're getting into trades, you've got to be aware that most commodities or a lot of commodities are going to be moving 5, 10, 15% on a daily basis. You really are taking high risk trades here because really you're just going to wake up and you're either going to have good news or bad news and commodities are going to go haywire. They're going to be up or down 10%. Perfect example today, gold, a huge reversal to the downside. Crude oil fell 10% today. It was up 10% the previous session. So volatility is going to be here to stay for a while. I think a lot of it has to do because the stock market, I think, is in the late stages of topping out. That brings volatility. It brings fear. And we can actually see that with the VIX ETF or the VIX index. If we were to look at the VIX, we can see it continues to climb here. And when you look at it from the grand scheme of things, we go back to the 2020 COVID pop. Really, anything below this blue line has been a level where fear gets up there and then it quickly dissipates and goes down. But we keep grinding up to this level. And I have a feeling the stock market could have one final big drop, another 5 or 8% drop, and that will pop the VIX, the volatility up. And that's going to create a lot of haywire in precious metals and pretty much across the board in everything. The one thing to be aware of, if the stock market does break down and have one more big drop, and we see the VIX blast through this line up into 40, 50, 60, 70 range, that's a level where panic selling kicks in with investors. They literally panic and call their advisors and tell them to sell everything, move them to bonds. They don't know what to do, so they liquidate everything. And usually that type of fear will affect commodities, including gold, silver, miners. And even though they've been in a strong run and they're bucking the trend right now, that kind of panic will pull metals and miners down temporarily. It'll only be short-lived. But just know that if the stock market starts to hit some new multi-month lows here, it might actually put some pressure on commodities for a week or three as that panic works itself through, the financial market.
We have seen some movement in silver. Obviously not as much as in gold or in some of the other commodities that are moving. What's your take on what's going on with silver? I think the last time we spoke, you were saying, it needs to see some conviction.
Yeah, so silver's finally starting to make a move. When we look at it, if we were to look at it like on a quarterly chart, very similar to gold in that it's got a very strong bull flag pattern on the quarterly chart. It is pointing to, 6, 9, 12 plus months of higher prices. Silver is very explosive though. It can make a lot of gains in a very short period of time. Sometimes gold will run up for several months. Silver really doesn't go anywhere. And then suddenly in 1 month, silver plays catch up. I think silver is in a very similar boat to gold. I think percentage wise, it can move up more. I like silver a lot. And I mean, really, it's the same scenario as gold. It's primed and ready to break out and start a big run. I think $50 on silver could be very, very doable once it kind of pops and starts to take off. But we're kind of in this cusp where I think precious metals are going to pause for a little bit here, a week or two, maybe a couple months. But the next big run, I think, is going to be pretty big. And a lot of it's going to have to do with what goes on with Russia and Ukraine, because that is adding a lot of value to precious metals and commodities right now on top of it. So if the war got resolved, it could actually deflate commodities quite a bit. But overall, commodities have been in a super cycle for about a year and a half to the upside. So I still think they're going to go higher. It's just the war, if it comes to an end quickly here, will kind of take the wind out of the sails for commodities for a few months.
Yeah, and this ties into one of the things I wanted to ask you. You can kind of, I think right now, take your pick of what commodity you want to talk about. Everything is pretty interesting right now. We're seeing very, big moves both up and down.
Yeah.
So commodities super cycle, can you give me a little bit more on your long-term outlook for the commodities sector as a whole? Because, definitely it's getting attention right now.
Yeah. So if you're to go back to like 2001, when the stock market peaked, everybody wanted stocks. Everyone wanted real estate. and commodities were the most undervalued asset out there. Nobody wanted to buy gold when you could buy these website companies back in 2000. And then of course the bubble popped and we saw commodities go into a huge rally. Gold went from like 250, to $2,000 over that kind of super cycle to the upside. Well, here we are now, about 2 years ago, we've started to enter this extreme where everyone wants stocks, everyone wants technology, and everyone's buying real estate again. Everything is in a bubble phase, except for commodities. And this was about a year and a half ago. I did a video, I talked about this, and I actually brought us back to this point where we are right now, February, March of 2022, saying this should be a major cycle low where we start to see commodities pick back up again. And so we're in this phase where I think we're going to see a 3 to 5 year commodity shift where they're going to have huge value growth. And they're going to defy, I think, the stock market in a bunch of ways. This time around, it's not just people weren't interested in commodities and now they are. It's this time people are going to be interested in commodities and now there actually is a real commodity issue. So I think commodities have a bigger leg to stand on and could really blow through some pretty crazy levels that we're going to, see on our grocery bill every day, every week.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where do you start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.